Have you ever wanted a big pair of boobs instead of your flat chest? Or wanted a flat chest instead of boobs? If so, I've got an anime for you. Ranma 1/2 features Ranma Saotome as a boy that, thanks to a fall in a cursed Chinese spring, just go with it, transformed into a girl when doused with cold water, only reverting back to a boy when doused with hot water. Now, I'll go ahead and say that there will be a lot of binary gender talk in this video, but it's not because I believe in a binary gender system. I don't. Nor do I believe in gender stereotypes or anything like that. But it's almost impossible to discuss Ranma 1/2 in a completely progressive way. For the sake of brevity, and because I trust everyone out there to understand that I would never say anything to try to hurt anyone, I will be using broad gender terms, with the understanding that this series came out in the late 80s, and in Japan, a time and place very different from our modern world. So, back to what I was saying. Ranma is a boy that turns into a girl when splashed with cold water. Physically, I mean. Though, by the end of the series, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. First published in 1987 by Rumiko Takahashi, this was after her huge success with Urusei Yatsura and before the massive hit that was Inuyasha, Ranma 1/2 got an anime adaptation in 1989. And it is wild to think about such a series being made in the 80s, since it not only features a gender-changing main character, but a lot of cross-dressing characters too. More on that in a minute though. The conceit of the series is that in China, there is a group of Cursed Springs, pools of water where something drowned long ago. And now, whenever someone falls into one of the pools, they take the form of whatever drowned in the spring when covered with cold water. Hot water changes them back until the next time they are cold and wet. Ranma fell in the spring of a drowned girl, while other characters fell into other springs. His father turned into a panda, one girl turned into a cat, a boy turned into a piglet. You get the picture. In addition to these transformations, the series also has a lot of light romance elements. Thanks to their parents and their ancient ideas, Ranma is engaged to a girl named Akane, who both respects and hates Ranma. They are both martial artists, capable fighters that easily handle themselves against other martial artists, but they end up butting heads themselves more than they agree, especially when more characters join the cast, either searching for Ranma because they love him or because they hate him. Ranma and his dad easily made enemies. As a whole, the series is about lighthearted fun, silly setups, action, romance, and in a way, getting along with others. There are few true villains, because even when someone appears with malicious intent, their problems are usually explained and they end up just another goofball member of the cast. The characters end up accepting of just about every kind of person. I absolutely love Ranma 1/2, and I have ever since I discovered it in middle school in the late 90s. Back then, I'll be honest, I liked that it showed boobs, albeit in a very simplistic way. I'm talking a single dot for a nipple. But god, there was a lot to enjoy too. The humor, the interesting characters and shenanigans, the absolute lunacy of the anything goes martial arts style, and how literally any activity could become a martial art. It was weird and unique and wonderful. Something I didn't notice back then, however, was that I really liked the show because of the fantasy of being able to change myself, back and forth, however I pleased. Which is, of course, impossible, but that doesn't mean it hurts to imagine. Ranma was a character I envied because what was a curse to him was a dream come true for me. Ranma screams non-binary or gender fluid from the rooftops, and I know I am not alone in realizing more about myself because of Takahashi's manga. The very idea of being able to change your gender, change who you are and how people perceive you, is liberating. But Ranma 1/2 does even more than that. It also challenges the ideas of gender that can make life even harder for transgender people. First, there's Ranma himself, who despises that he turns into a woman, understandable since he is not a woman, and whose main motivation for doing things is the hope to return to the Cursed Springs and undo the curse, so he can be who he is. Because he has always been a guy, Ranma still acts like a guy, even when he's in girl form, including taking his shirt off willy-nilly, much to the chagrin of the women in the show. However, as time passes, Ranma becomes much more comfortable in his female form, to the point that he will even purposefully change into his buxom red-haired version to accomplish something. Say, a contest against a woman, or a martial arts battle between women, or even to, be sexy. Yes, Ranma sometimes changes into a woman just to be a woman and show off how good he looks. He actually learns to take pride in who he is, even if he originally hated that half of himself. Hell, he even eventually starts being bashful about his female self and stops whipping his tits out all over the place, which is a huge change from the beginning of the series. By the end, Ranma's girl side is just as much a part of him as his male side, and it's not hard to read the character as bigender or gender fluid. Ranma may not wake up one day and think, I want to be a girl today, but he does often change into his male or female self of his own accord. He quickly starts accepting who he is and what each side of himself is like, something many people have to do without the ability to literally change their bodies whenever they want. And while the male-female sides of Ranma often play into gender stereotypes, a lot of characters in the show dismiss such notions, starting with Akane. Despite being just a girl, she is the strongest character in the school she attends, regularly defeating every member of every club. And I do mean regularly. At the start of the series, we see that every morning at the school, she is challenged by the men of the boxing club, the hockey club, the kendo club, and others, and she beats them all easily. But she retains feminine graces and wants to be seen as a woman. Akane's desire is to be who she is, a strong girl that can look cute and kick ass, and Takahashi never betrays this. Even Ranma's sometimes sexist comments about her being too macho for a chick are rewarded with swift justice in the form of Akane's fist or feet. Clearly, strong women are not a problem in Ranma 1/2, as Shampoo, an Amazon warrior that has only ever lost to Ranma, as well as Ukyo, a cross-dressing girl that can lay a hell of a beatdown, exist alongside Akane and end up more respectable than their male peers. While the men are often the butts of jokes, the women tend to be who the audience roots for, in one way or another. The men get their spotlights, for sure, but my point is that women are not used as fodder for jokes or simple objects of affection. They stand equal to men and are seen as both strong and sexy. They don't have to throw away their femininity to be awesome. Speaking of Ukyo, let's talk about cross-dressers in Ranma 1/2. Takahashi obviously thought a man changing into a woman wasn't enough because she included a good number of other queer characters, or queer adjacent. Ukyo is a girl that went to a boys' school. She dressed as a boy, let everyone think she was a boy, and essentially acted as a boy. And while this was explained as her giving up on being a woman due to being rejected by Ranma in the past, and her dropping that guise once she patches things up with Ranma, it is still an example of a person assigned female at birth choosing to behave as a boy and being recognized as such. And that's damn good. Then there's Tsubasa, a guy that dresses in women's clothing but who identifies as a man and is straight. His appearance is meant to create confusion, as a person that is seemingly a girl comes looking for Ukyo, and it's assumed that Tsubasa thought Ukyo was a boy. A straight girl looking for a straight boy. Makes sense. But when Tsubasa reveals that he knows that Ukyo is a girl, Ranma and Akane assume that Tsubasa is a lesbian, only to find out that Tsubasa is a cross-dressing straight man who just likes women's clothes, and has great hair. It's really good. To unpack all that, we have attempts at a potentially gay male relationship, then a potentially gay female relationship, then a cross-dressing straight man that is attracted to a cross-dressing straight woman. And throughout all of it, nobody really bats an eye. Ukyo even assumed that everyone knew everything there was to know. This absurd situation is played for laughs, like everything in Ranma 1/2, but it's still amazing to see. Yes, there is a bit of a lack of understanding, but in my opinion, it's forgivable since it was the 80s and Japan. The Japan part is very important, since LGBTQ+ issues are still kind of taboo there, and often fetishized in the media that does portray them. Also, Rumiko Takahashi didn't seem to be bashing any people, or saying that any kind of way of life was wrong or shouldn't exist. She created a humorous series with far-fetched scenarios and included real types of people in exaggerated depictions. It's not perfect, and it may not even be good representation. But Ranma 1/2 shows a different kind of life than anime fans may be used to, especially for the time period it came out in. A world where men can be women, where women can be men, where being strong doesn't mean you can't be feminine, and where wearing a dress doesn't mean you aren't a man. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, especially once Haposai comes around with his groping and panty stealing. Yes, that can be very triggering for people, and it's something to watch out for. But Ranma 1/2 is an important series to me, and I know it has been for others too. It helped me realize that I don't have to be a certain way. I don't have to act like a man or destroy my feminine qualities. I don't have to let other people define who I am. And while I may never be able to make boobs appear and disappear the way Ranma can, I can still be who I am on the inside, on the outside, in my own way. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, leave a comment down below saying your thoughts, and if you want to find me on social media, I'm on Twitter, @ShaggyJeebus. I recently started a Patreon. I'll put the link for that down below. It's just patreon.com/ShaggyJeebus. I want to be able to make content like this as a living one day, probably in the far off future if it ever happens, and Patreon's just one step on the way. Okay, again, thank you very much for watching, and I gotta say, if you watch Ranma 1/2 and you envy Ranma, I feel for you. It sucks to see something that you wish you could do, wish you could have, and know that you can never have it in your life. But thankfully, we can change the way we dress, we can either wear makeup or change our hairstyles. People have all kinds of freedoms to express themselves, and it's important to explore that. So if you're ever unsure of how to find a way to express how you feel on the inside, just do some research online. There's a lot of great subreddits about trans people or non-binary people, and I'm sure you can find some tips on how to express who you are in a physical way. Alright, I'm pulling for all of you. I hope everyone has a great time, and remember, Haposai's a bad guy. He is. I have no excuses for him. He's terrible. I'm glad he gets his ass kicked every time he appears. He's horrible. What a haul? Yeah, how about I haul my foot into your ass?
You're, gay, right? I mean, like, openly gay?
I'm not openly anything, and gay doesn't begin to cover it, no.
If coming out is a magic show and gayness is a rabbit out of a hat, I'm one of those never-ending handkerchiefs.